to Indianomics. We are discussing whether we need to move monetary policy making to a committee form from the current system where the governor takes the decision all by himself. Earlier this week, I caught up with Mr. Susha Thorat, a former deputy governor and quite clearly one of the brightest in recent times. Here's a slice of the chat I had with her. Thank you very much, Mrs. Thorat, for joining me on Indianomics. We are discussing the monetary policy committee, which now looks inevitable, but it's not yet law. And I wanted to ask you first, is it really necessary?
Well, ultimately, when you look at it, the present RBI Act certainly makes the governor clearly and squarely responsible. Although the government may from time to time give directions to the central bank, it has never done so. So I think under the present system, there is no scope for monetary policy decision-making committee. And therefore, if you need that, you do have to have a legal change. Having said that, from the legal point of view.
Yeah.
Having said that, the whole point is, and this was partly the reason why the Technical Advisory Committee was set up, so that you get a diversity of opinion from different, aspects of the public, market participants and others, to be able to inform monetary policy decision making. Now the whole question is it better to have a committee taking a decision rather than a governor alone, or a committee in which the governor clearly has the say, to be able to decide on monetary policy?
Okay.
I think here the view is, and I think that would probably hold through time, is that ultimately whether it is a committee taking the view or the governor taking the view, I think the composition of the committee is very, very important.
All right, let me come to that. There are countries in which there is an overwhelming majority of members who are appointed by the central bank. There are countries where the entire committee is appointed by the central bank. And of course, there are committees where the government has a fairly decent role. How should it be for us?
I think one has to accept the fact that the governor, the deputy governors are all appointed by the central government, right, for a fixed tenure. And they have a number of other responsibilities as well. So the point is not who's the appointing authority. The point is how is the manner of their appointment, how will their tenure be, and are they going to be people who are there because of the, it's a kind of a appointment which the government is giving as some sort of a, recognition, or what is it? So I think it's important, and that is the reason why I feel that to get people to serve on the Monetary Policy Committee is not going to be easy. To be able to really get the kind of people who are totally without any agenda, business agenda or any other interest, and who are going to be quite objective and are equally well informed of the nuances of monetary theory, linkages between monetary policy and financial stability and with the fiscal policy. I mean, one really needs to get very, very good people onto the committee. And these people, during the period they are going to be on the committee, are they going to be allowed to continue what they're going to do otherwise? Or, you want them to be full-time members, or even if they aren't, you don't want them to really be having any conflicts of interest. So that, I would still say that the Reserve Bank, core people who have got a loyalty to their job and a commitment and an accountability, I would say should really have the dominant say.
The original FSLRC draft had said it should be governor and two members from the RBI, I would assume, the deputy governor and maybe the executive director in charge of monetary policy. Two members appointed by the government on the advice of the governor and two appointees of the government. That was the FSLRC proposal. Then Mr. Chidambaram, in a piece in one of the newspapers, said that it could be 3-3 each, with the governor getting a casting vote in case of a tie. What would your best case be?
Again and again, I would say 3-3 or 3-2, whatever it is. Now, who is that other three? What kind of people would they be? And who is going to select them? Who's going to be involved in their selection? I think those are the kind of questions I would seek answers for.
Would you want them to be, appointed through a rigorous search committee like the way the governor is appointed? What should be the procedure involved to ensure that they are independent of the government in a sense?
But when you're appointing the governor, you're appointing him for 3 years, right?
Yes.
It should be really for 5 years. When you're appointing the deputy governors, you're appointing them for a term. You're appointing them with really, they have everything at stake in their job. So when you have an external member, is that similar kind of an appointment?
All right. What's the governor's role? Would you think that it should be first among equals? Should it be a casting vote? Should it be a veto?
Among equals, he should have the casting vote. And I personally feel that he should even have the veto.
Okay.
Because the veto, to do a veto, you have to do it really with so much explanation. But I think ultimately, I personally feel that it's important. But obviously, you're going to use it only in exceptional cases.
Yeah. And finally, what is the reasonable length of time you are looking at?
You see, the Reserve Bank core people, they would be, there, and even then one would ensure continuity because one of them is sort of nearing the full term, there's something else going to take place. So, and I would expect the governor's term, I personally think, should be at least 5 years.
Okay.
As far as the external members are concerned, I think it would be reasonable to have a minimum 3 years.
And finally, would you think that policy making will be genuinely better in the new? Is this progress?
I think policy making doesn't really depend upon whether there is a committee instrument of making it. It depends upon the expertise, it depends upon the objectivity, it depends upon the kind of gut feeling, it depends upon intuition, it depends upon receptivity to various aspects of society. And I think I do feel that if you have a set of people in the Reserve Bank who've got all that, I think it's as good as having the external policy-making committee, which is also good because then they have much more of a stake and a responsibility in contributing to the policy decision. They don't have to just say something, without any feeling of responsibility. But tell me, Latha, if you really have such a, sort of people, how you're not going to establish their accountability? There's no way. It's a reputation maybe that when they contributed, they said this and they said. But who bothers about, what the rest of the members of the Monetary Policy Committee said or who said what and what was the outcome? Ultimately, it's a collective thing. So in which case, I would say that it really is the governor and his team.
Well, that's Mrs. Thorat's take, and here are my key takeaways from both my experts. One, Mrs. Thorat believes the RBI is best placed to take monetary policy decisions, and the current system with a technical advisory committee appointed by the governor works well. Dr. Subara, however, thinks a committee is a better idea. On the composition, Dr. Subara would like a majority representation for the governor's nominees. Mrs. Thorat is more concerned that the members are appointed in such a way that they are independent and committed to the task of policy making full time. Mrs. Thorat wants members to have security of tenure. As well, she wants the governor too to be appointed for a fixed tenure of 5 years rather than the 3+2 that's currently in vogue. Both Dr. Subbarao and Mrs. Thorat want the governor to have a veto or a casting vote. And my take finally, the RBI has done a fine job. Don't mend what is not broken. An excellent governor has just fixed the macros beautifully. Why wreck it by changing the system? Secondly, a tug of war between an MPC that is divided between the governor and the government, often at loggerheads, is an unfortunate start to an MPC. Chances are disagreement will be leaked and the atmosphere will get vitiated. The priority for the country is bank bad loans, an uninspired public sector banking system, like I said, and a jungle of administered rates, an economy that needs fixing. Let's fix these. That's it on this edition of Indianomics. Thanks for watching.